We like to break down content into four main buckets. We realize that time isn't infinite, and there are times when you have to choose where to focus your time and energies, and content is no different, as it is time consuming to create great content. However, if you think about it in these four buckets, it will help you figure out where to spend your time. The first bucket is curated content, which we call a listicle. This kind of content should highlight things to do and places to explore. While this can take many forms, one of the most popular types of listicles is what we call an editor's picks article. So every month you post an article that includes 10 to 15 upcoming events that you want to feature from your calendar for the given month. You post that on the site, promote it to the homepage, and share on Facebook and in your email newsletter. Some other types of listicles could be things like best burgers, Christmas activities, and gift guides. The second bucket is profiles. These are articles that go in depth about people or businesses, and they tend to be in a Q&A style interview or a research piece. The people you'll tend to interview are your advertisers, local businesses, or covering unique history or school information and things of that nature. The third bucket is quick hitters. This could be an article, say like a homes report with a couple of nice listings. It could cover local sports scores, government or school board news. This is essentially news where you can look for a posting on some other site. It could be a national site, a local town site. You grab a bit of information from it, write a couple paragraphs, and then you link back to the original source. These types of articles don't happen too often, but they are the fastest to write, and they tend to go viral the most because you're covering something that is topical and more breaking news that people tend to talk about and share with others. If one of these goes viral every month, it can really make or break your traffic for the time period, so we definitely recommend mixing some quick hitters into your content mix. The final bucket is syndicated content, which is great for when you're in a pinch, as this is content that has already been written for you. We've partnered with a company called Family Features that makes their content available to you within the app. They tend to do more home and garden style content. The reason we partner with them is because they don't care if you edit the title or the body of the article so that you can localize the content. In fact, they actually encourage you to localize the content. The only thing they ask is that you don't change the sponsor links, as that's how they make their money. You aren't going to use these all the time, but if you are in a pinch and you need to get something posted, this is a great way to fill in the gaps. We're not going to go through all of them that are listed on the slide, but as you'll see, there's a lot of other great examples here. Now we're going to talk about SEO, or search engine optimization. This is essentially the art and science of ranking in search engines, with Google obviously being the biggest of them. There are literally thousands of factors that go into where you rank on Google and how they rank you in their results. There are some things you can control and there are some things you can't. We handle all the technical aspects of search engine optimization, mobile-friendly site, the structure of the code, how fast the page loads, social share buttons, and we handle all the keywords and meta tags behind the scenes for you. Now, where you can have the biggest impact is by posting great content. If you don't do that, nothing else really matters, but as you're all publishers, so we trust that you have that covered. The next most important thing that you'll want to make sure of is to optimize your titles and descriptions with keywords. You also want to make sure each article is scannable, has short paragraphs, descriptive headers for each section. This is because the way people browse the internet now, it's of a scrolling nature, such as when people scan through their Facebook feeds, they may catch a title or description, catches their attention, they click on it to read it, and they'll immediately scan the page to see if that article is what they actually thought it was about. And if it's not scannable, they're just going to go right back to Facebook. They're going to keep scrolling. And obviously, the more visual you can make it, the better. We're going to talk about why you need to crosslink and promote this content and why it's important in the next few slides. So what does a good title and description look like? It should include local keywords. The description is a slightly longer variation of the same headline, and the purpose here is twofold. One is to get people interested in the article by the title and description so that they click on it and read it, and the other is to rank well on Google. For example, if I were to write an article and call it Greenhouse, that's not going to be very helpful for the reader because they're going to look at it and they're going to think, well, that could mean a whole lot of different things. And then from Google's perspective, if you want to try to rank for this article in Google, you now have to compete with everyone in the world on the term greenhouse. There's also no local qualifiers in the title, nothing descriptive. And if I can't figure it out reading it, Google's not going to be able to either. So to improve this greenhouse title and make it more usable and reader friendly, I might change it to something like 15 tips to make your El Dorado Hills home a green home. The key thing being the keyword El Dorado Hills, which is a city near where we are based here in Folsom, which is in Sacramento County. So now we've introduced 2 local keywords, one in the title and one in the description. And we've expanded the title and description and given it more context to what the article is actually about. And if you want to rank in Google for local keywords like El Dorado Hills, there is no shortcuts to do this. You need to make sure they're included as long as it's relevant in the title and description. In the long term, this is how you're going to rank for these things. There's obviously other things involved in ranking, but this is what you can control every time you post an article. Now, cross-linking is pretty much what it sounds like. If you write an article and you reference a business in that article, you should link to that business in your directory. If you have a list of events in that editor's pick article, you should link back to the event in your calendar. This may sound like a small thing, but it is a great for search engine optimization. For example, someone clicks on an article on Facebook, they scan, say, an editor's picks article, they scan the events in the article, they then click on an event, which opens up in your calendar to give the details. Maybe they realize, hey, I can't make it that day, but they go ahead and scan the calendar for other events that they might like to attend. Say they click on a business and see that that business is doing other events that they might like, and then all of a sudden that user now has clicked around 3 or 4 times. This is great for building traffic, and it's a very strong signal to Google that people are engaging with your content. And if you don't do this cross-linking, you're losing that whole opportunity. It's so important that we've built in a couple shortcuts that makes cross-linking content easy. As you can see with the red arrow here, when you click on the crossing arrows in the text editor, this will open our insert content snippet tool, and it's a great way to build out that something like the editor's picks article quickly. The last thing for the content side before we get into promotions is how to organize content on your site. This is probably the most misunderstood part of having a website, and yet is very important for your site. The most important thing to understand about categories and tags is that if you use a business within our system, if you create a category or a tag, behind the scenes, it's creating a page automatically on the site, and these are called archives pages. It's a standard process. It will list all the articles that you use that tag or category on, and if you use tags that aren't being reused on a regular basis or only apply to one thing, or tag an article with the name of the business or the town you're in, you're going to have all these pages that have very little content on them, or maybe they have all the same kind of content that's on every other page of the site. So you want to be intentional about how you organize your site. Best way to think about it is with the file cabinet analogy. So the cabinet is your site, and each drawer within the cabinet is a category. And each folder within each drawer is a tag or topic. I'll note that a topic in our system is just a tag that you've said, I want to remember this and reuse it in the future, and we have a few shortcuts to have you remember that as you go. Ideally, you only have a handful of categories and about 20 to 30 predefined topics and tags that you use on a regular basis. These should be things that you want to rank for, except for local business names. Those should be tagged as a related business, and you shouldn't use town names. We have a sections feature for you if you have multiple communities that you want to organize content in, but if you're only in one town and you're just covering one area, you don't want to tag every article with the name of the town because that's what your website is about. To give another analogy, if you have a folder with only one article in it, that's not a very good folder. And if you have 3 drawers, but you only use the top drawer because all the content only ends up in this one category, then you don't have very good categories. When organizing content on your site, think of the content you are creating on a regular basis and how you should organize it so that every drawer has the same number of folders and each folder has the same number of articles. If you can find that balance or at least get close to it, you are well on your way to being able to have a well-structured site. The idea that if you just create great content, people are going to find you is a myth. You need to promote it. The 2 most popular ways to promote it are email and social media. Email is still the most effective way to drive people to your site. It's the only channel that you control when it gets sent out and when people will get communication from you. With social media, say with something like Facebook, they're ultimately the ones controlling who sees what, and you don't have a lot of control. You've probably heard things about algorithms and how hard it is to get things in people's feeds, which is true to an extent, which is why an email list, if you don't already have one, is an incredibly important to build and use. And again, I'll note social promotions is a great way to build this while making money. In regards to social media, the list on the right tells the story. You'll see, 90% is from Facebook. So we recommend doing Facebook really well and then move on to the other things. Instagram isn't on the list because it's not great at driving traffic to your site because they don't allow you to put links on posts, but it can be a great way for sharing images, engaging with your community, but it's just not great for driving traffic. So the key takeaway here, the priority should be email newsletter, then Facebook, and then everything else. So how do you promote effectively? The name of the game is driving people back to your site. So every time you share something on Facebook or include something in an email newsletter, there should be a preview with a link to that article or event or business that you're referencing. On Facebook, if you're referencing a local business, you should also be sure to tag them in the post, as that's going to notify them that you shared something about them, and hopefully that will also encourage them to share the post on their page, or at least like and engage with that post. For 3 and 4, we understand that time is finite, but if it's an advertiser you're talking about, or it's a big venue in town, or a business with a huge local following up with an email or maybe even a call and letting them know you wrote an article about them will go a long way in getting them to share it. And if you can, include a link and a little blurb that they can copy and paste to make it super easy for them to do so. The more you can get people to share your content, the more people find it, the more people end up following and engaging with you, the more traffic you get, and it becomes this positive cycle.